Hello makers, this is one of the projects I made for the Tim Holtz Sizzix 2023 Halloween release. Obviously it's a wreath, and this was inspired by the wake scene in the Haunted Mansion hallway. So that is the color scheme that I chose to go with and the kind of vibe that I went with. But this whole wreath, including the flowers, was all made with one die set, and that is the Artsy Leaves from the 2023 Halloween release. Yes, I even made the flowers with the leaves. So I am looking forward to getting to show you how I made this wreath and the flowers in this tutorial. So I want to invite you along and let's get making. For this project, you're going to need the die Artsy Leaves 666330 by Tim Holtz Sizzix. This is the main die I'm going to use for the whole project. I may use one other die, but I think I can complete the whole thing just using this one die. However, other than the black craft stock that I have, you are probably going to need to look into either your stash, or you may need to get a few things that you aren't used to using with the die cuts, because we're going to make a crafty project today rather than something like a card or a vignette or something like that, or a layout or anything like that. So this is more of a crafting project than a paper project. And let's get started talking about what some of those other things are that you're going to need to use with the Artsy stems. So I am going to be adhering some fabric. So I have some Eclectic Elements fabric here, and this set is the Provisions, and these are fat quarters. And look at all these wonderful colors in the Provisions Eclectic Elements line. This is quilting cotton fabric, so it's not really thick, and you can use it for all kinds of things. So I'm going to be using the black today for my project. So if you have the black, that's great. I'm going to be pulling that out. I may later on pull one of the blue fabrics also. I'm leaning towards this gray blue. So I'll actually go ahead and pull it out right now, because I may be using this one as well. Isn't that lovely? So those are the two colors from the Provisions from Eclectic Elements that I will be using. And then I think this is a really fun set of fat quarters. And these are the foundations, and there are a lot in here that I could use. Ooh, look at this one. Maybe this one. Oh, this one might be a good one. Look at that. Oh yeah, I love it. So this may be a winner right here from foundations. I'm setting that aside. Okay, let me put these over here. And if you don't have any of the fat quarters, totally understand that. I do know that they are pricey if you buy the whole set. So there's a solution. You can go on simonsaysstamp.com, and they have Tim's fabrics in 10 by 10 inch squares. So you may have to buy a couple of these packets, but they're really very affordable. So this is the monochrome pack. I have a Halloween pack, and if we look through it, oh, there are some great colors, but I am not going in this direction with the orange. So although those are great colors, I am going more in the grays and blues is what I'm going for. Oh, this one would be wonderful. I do like this one. So I'm going to pull this. Oops. Has one on the back of it that I don't need. And although super fun, right? Okay, and then I could possibly use this one also. All right, so let's pull those aside. Look at that. Oh, man. Good stuff. Look at those. Oh, so fun. All right, I'm going to put those away. You can see that this is kind of a fairly plain, somber color scheme, and that is because I'm going to be making a wreath, and this is the wreath that I have. It's an 8-inch grapevine wreath. You can make one that is a 12-inch, a 10-inch, smaller, 6-inch if you want. For your home decor, if you want to put it on like a tiered tray, you might want, a smaller one that you would do this on. But I wanted one that I could, show in the tutorial and still use somewhere in the house. So I thought 8-inch was a good compromise for that, so that you could still see me making it and Tim could still show it easily in the live. So what I'm going to do is take these. I'm going to be cutting a bunch of those leaves, and I'm going to be, now, of course, this was a grapevine wreath, and they come brown like grapevines, and I spray painted it with some Rust-Oleum. It was just for everything, wood, anything. And it was a matte finish, so I spray painted it outside, good air, masked, all of that, and then let it dry completely before bringing it in. So I'm going to be covering it with leaves, all going in one direction in the black. So it's going to go around all the way. And I thought that this would make a good base because I wouldn't really have to be absolutely positive that every single little inch was covered, because I think it's okay if some of this shows through. But I'm kind of making a wreath that you would, that I thought would fit in that Haunted Mansion hallway where they have kind of the wake set up, and they have some of those wreaths for the funeral. So that's what I'm making. And so this is going to be like leaves all the way around. And then I'm going to use some of these for flowers, I think. And so I'll decide as I get there, but I will cut the leaves and I'll use the other end of the leaf to make flowers that I will, put on one area. And then I may use something like this and just cut a thin piece of it to go across. And I may use an alphabet and just put RIP across there, kind of like a little, I don't know what they call those. Or if I did a bow and just had it hanging down. I'll see which one I decide. But I may use part of this for that. And I also may make some flowers out of this as well with the leaves. So to make the flowers and the leaves from that die cut, I'm actually going to be ironing them onto this paper. So this will be the back of it. And I'm going to be ironing it onto this side. And the way that I do that is by using Wonder Under interfacing. So Wonder Under interfacing is a paper-backed fusible web. And just let me see, I can pull this off. So let me show you. You can actually see the webbing right there. And it is heat activated. So it's attached to this paper. And when I cut this off, oh, you need one other thing before you begin. You do need some fabric scissors. And those of you who are crafty probably have a set that you set aside. I don't necessarily, I use mine for everything because I'm not a professional seamstress. So I just use mine for whatever. And you can see I have glue on them and things like that. So these are the haberdashery scissors by Tim Holtz and Tonic. They come in 5-inch and 6-inch. And they're very, very, very sharp. And it's been really super fun recently to get to use them actually on fabric. So I do have these available if I need them for trimming up and cutting some things. They work a little bit better than these do with the teeth on them. Okay. So back to the Wonder Under. This is a paper-backed fusible webbing, and I use it to help me die cut. And so this is the best way I have found. It just works the easiest for me when I'm die cutting and I want something to have a little bit more substance than just fabric. So I have my fusible web with the fusible web facing the back of my fabric. So this is my black fabric, and so it's facing that. I have it on, since I'm in my craft room, I just have it on an old towel on my craft mat. And now I have my craft iron. This isn't my normal iron. Generally, I would do this in my room on our actual iron, but not only am I sick making Halloween projects in May, but unfortunately my husband is sick and he is resting in our room. We both got this horrible spring bug, and it is really doing a number on us. Let me tell you, it's really been bad. So, oops. I don't know how Exitensio knows when I forget to put the thing back to keep him out. But he just knows, so he's trying to get in again. All right, you can see sometimes I have to hold it in a spot, but you can see as I went over this that it started to get really transparent, and then you know that it has adhered. You can also, let me pull these down, and one of the reasons I use fabric or something that I don't want ruined, or I don't care if it gets ruined, is because, see, this part that was over stuck to the towel, I wouldn't want that to stick to my real ironing board, because then it would make it adhere to my clothes and things like that, and my iron, and I don't want that. All right, so you can see that happens very quickly. And now I'm going to let it cool, and I'll come back and we'll attach this to our paper. All right, you can see that I have peeled the paper off, and you just crumple it up and throw it away. No big deal. And if you look carefully, you should be able to see the difference between that section that I didn't have any fusible web paper on and the part where I adhered it. So this was that little top part that was left, and here's the rest of it. And for some reason with this particular one, I had a little bit of trouble in a couple of areas with it not sticking well. So if you do have problems with that, you can put the paper back over and go ahead and iron back over it if you want. Since I'm going to put paper on it anyway, I just figured whatever, it's fine. So let's go ahead, and I have this corner that I can do. So I'm going to start on that row, and I'm putting the part that I want to adhere to the fabric down. So I want the fabric to be, the black fabric will be facing up, and this will be facing the wreath. So I'm going to put it like this, and then I'll put this one next to it. Now, normally I save the paper, and I didn't. So let me see how far I can get here. And it is looking like I can get 3 on this bottom row. So let me do this. I'm going to cut, they're right along here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this right along that line. That looks like it's about the 9-inch line. And I'm going to cut it all the way across. Okay, set this aside, and then let's see how much. So I got that one, this one, and I might be able to get a little bit of that one on there, so that's fine. All right, I'm going to get those as close together as I can so I don't get any sticky. And if I was worried I was going to get sticky, you could put, like down here, I might put a little bit of paper towel, or you could use like a clean inky binky and go over it like that. Okay, that feels really good. And you can see, even when I fold it up, that the fabric is stuck to the paper all the way. No bubbles, no nothing, just adhered. That's wonderful. So now I can go through and I can trim between each one and then cut them down to the size I need to go through a die cutter. And since I have to cut a million leaves, if I wanted, I could take my little fold away or set myself up in front of something and watch TV and talk to my husband if I wanted, but since he's sick and in bed, I will just stay here in my studio and cut these out while I watch some of my favorite Walt Disney World YouTubers. I decided that while I had the iron out, I would go ahead and get the fabric fusible web on the back of the other pieces of fabric that I thought I might use for flowers. So I have done that, and now I need to adhere it to some paper so that I can make the flowers. And I realized that I did not plan ahead very well, because the black craft stock that I used for the black paper, I'm not sure that this is going to be enough, and so I only have 4 more pieces of it when I looked in my stash. So I need to put this on my reorder list. I'm saving that to just in case I need to use the rest of this fabric and back it with this paper. So I'm setting all of this aside in case I need more leaves. So for the flowers, I thought I would use kind of there's a gray stonish color that is kind of a pumice stone color that is in the neutrals pack. And I believe that I have used it all up. So I did not reorder my neutrals, and that is a problem because I'm completely out. So this, do not tell, but I am such a hoarder. This is super, super old Tim Holtz Ranger Distress collection from, who is this? I forgot who made this. Coordinations. Is that how you say that? Yeah. So anyway, you could sand it. It does have the craft stock inside, I think. But anyway, yeah, I have, I brought this by the whole pack a while back. Well, it was a while back, right? So anyway, I pulled 3 pieces out. I'm going to go ahead and attach it to this. I think it'll be a fine color for the back of these. It's as close to as gray as I could get. So I think that's what I'll do. All right. See, sometimes it pays off to be a hoarder. All right, so I have a bunch of leaves cut, and before I put them on the wreath, I want to loosen them up a little bit. So I'm getting out my Sizzix Tim Holtz shaping kit, and I'm just going to use the one that has the big end because I just want to loosen it up a little bit. So just going to kind of go over them a little bit, just like that. And they're looking a little wrinkly like that. I don't care. I just want them a little bit loose and old looking. I think that does the job. So I'm just gonna do that really quickly on each of them. And then once I've done that on both sides, I'll go ahead and warm up my glue gun. And then these I will start attaching kind of in rows like this around. So I'll have some on the inside, 2, 3, probably 4 or 5 rows. And then, like I said, I may leave spaces in between where some of this stuff comes out, and I just kind of tuck some in because I don't want it to be perfect. So let me get these all kind of shaped and ready to put on, and then I'll come back. I didn't do all of the leaves, but I did quite a few of them, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have the extras over here in case I get partway through and realize I need to cut more, I need to shape more, whatever. I have my hot glue gun at the ready. I have my extra glue, and I'm just going to go for it. I've never done this, so I may have some points of ripping things off and putting them back on. But I'm just going to give it a shot, and I want to cover this whole thing, the front of it at least, in leaves, and then have some of the base still show through around the edges and around the inside. Well, makers, in full disclosure, I know that I mentioned during this tutorial that my husband and I were very sick when I was making this back in April and May of this year, 2023. And it got to the point, I just kept getting worse and worse while I was making my Halloween Sizzix makes. And it got to the point that I got the whole wreath covered, and then I was just so sick, I didn't think I was going to be able to finish this. So I pushed through, but I quit filming. And then once I was done, I took my pictures, I filmed the intro and outro, and I shipped and went to bed for the next week. So I am going to try now, several months later, to make a flower and see if I can remember how I did it. So I did use just this die for pretty much the whole thing, except for the Emporium that I cut out of the black, and it was backed with the black craft stock. And then I cut this piece, I cut out of the blue and sewed it together. And I didn't show that, but basically I just sewed kind of a tube because I was limited in the amount of fabric I had, and I didn't have enough to go all the way around. So I had to piece it together. So it's pieced together back here. And then I used an extra piece and I ironed it on that old coordinations paper. And then I cut some of the leaves out of that to go here with the flowers. And so I think I might mention that in my exit video, but the outro video. But anyway, this is the same fabric that I used for that. And I think I may just have been saying paper and fabric intermixably. You know, I just keep doing that. So anyway, I ended up having a lot of this left over because I thought I was going to make some flowers out of it also. But, you know, I could only do so much at the time. So I made flowers out of this one, this fabric, again, backed with the coordinations, and this fabric backed with the coordinations. And I cut them, the flower petals, I cut out of these two leaves. So it's this one that is in the purple and this one over here that's in the blue. So those were the two outline dies that I used, and I cut out the pieces. So as you can see here, these are some leftover of the black that I used. And then here are some leftover petals from the blue flowers. I have 2 of them. The other 3 are made with this fabric. So let's see if we can remember how I did it. I'm going to kind of set this here a little bit off so that I can try and remember. And you need a hot glue gun. And I'm going to use all the different, you can use just one for all of them. You can mix them however you want to do it. And the bigger the flower, the more petals I added. And as you get toward the outside, you definitely want the wider petals. Toward the inside, you can stick with the thinner petals. And I believe on the inside, what I did was add a little bit and roll it. You want this one tight. So you're going to do a lot of fiddling on this one, and that's okay. The first one takes the longest. Okay. I'm going to keep going. You're going to end up cutting the bottom part of this one off. You can make this as tight as you want. All right, and as you can see, as I kind of pull this down, you can kind of see the part that's in the middle, right? And where it's kind of, okay, so now, oops, I'm going to glue that part right there. And this gives me something to hold on to, but I can cut it later on. Okay. Fiddling, fiddling. All right, now you're going to add the next one. And I'm going to start the edge on the other side so that it goes around where that seam is. So you want to kind of alternate those. And I sometimes like to fiddle a little bit before I glue to make sure that I'm getting this all right. Okay, so that's going to go right there. So let's go ahead and do some glue. And then a little glue here. And don't worry about the little stray pieces. Those we will get rid of with the heat tool later. Okay. We're kind of keeping it tight here at the beginning. All right, I'm going to take another one. And this one. All right, so you can see that that petal is kind of on that side now. And then we'll be putting a petal here and a petal here. So see how you're kind of alternating that? Okay. And you can also kind of go over and see how I'm kind of rolling that. You can do that ahead of time also, so that see how it helps it kind of roll down a little more naturally. Okay. And we'll do one last of the thin ones, and then we're going to start adding some of these. And again, like I said, the more petals you add, the bigger your flower is going to be. So you get to decide how big or how small you want it. And this one may end up being kind of a very new bud. Oh, there we go. Okay. So see how they're not perfectly going back. I kind of like the way when I pulled that up that stuck like that. I like it. So I'm just going to hold it. I'm going to add some glue here. And then I'm going to stick that right there and hold it. And now I'm coming around this way. So you can see it's kind of long. I am going to be cutting that off. All right, we're going to pick up another one. I'm going to go ahead and bend that back. And I'm just kind of trying to roll it between my fingers to get the petal to look a little bit natural as it's bending back. You don't want to just fold it. You want to kind of roll it like that. Okay. Now that one's going to go on this side. And see how I start up a little bit each time? So you want to be able to start up, and then when you squeeze it, it kind of naturally, see how I'm squeezing it like that? And it kind of naturally folds back like that. So I'm going to go ahead and add some glue in there. And then there we go. The next one I'm going to put here, so I'm just going to overlap a little bit. Now these I did not, so this is one of the old ones that's left over. You can see that I did go around and I inked all the edges. I think I said that earlier. I inked all the edges and sprayed them with water. I could be wrong. I may not have said that, but that's really what I did. So I'll kind of show you on here. So I just inked all the edges like you would paper. And then you can spray them with water if you want to try and get them look like they, you know, had gotten wet, or you can just leave it like that. All right, so do that curling. And then we're going to go, since these are wider, we're going to go next to this one. Like that, and squeeze it. And you can see I'm starting to leave a little more space. I hope I didn't do all of that off camera just now. I just noticed. Ugh. So I'm going to put a little glue there. And squeeze. And now I'm going to try and go here. So I'm going to curl. And I'm coming on this side. I'll put a little glue and then I'm going to squeeze. And you can see our flower really starting to take shape there. See, I think that one was here. All right, I have these two blue ones. So let me go ahead and just add those since this is a fake flower anyway. It's okay. I'm just trying to show you how to do this. So now this one's going to go here. I could actually do it here and then do that fourth one right there. So let me do that. Add a little glue. Gonna add that right here. And I'm squeezing to get it to pop out just a little bit so you can kind of see how it's not perfect. I'm just kind of squeezing it on there. And then that allows that petal to roll back. I'm going to put one more right here for right now. So let me roll. And that one's going to go here. And you can also see that as you get wider, you can let them roll back more. Okay, so I'm going to put glue a little farther down on this one. And then squeeze. And push that up in there. I'm squeezing. And there we go. So then I would just keep going, keep putting another one here, another one here, another one here, and you just keep adding until you get the look that you want. At this point, if I were just attaching this, if they were all the same, they'd all been inked, whatever, and I was ready to attach it. So you can see some of them are smaller, right? I just put a few. I have all the glue on me. And this one's a little bit smaller. So once I have that done, I would take, probably not these because this is really thick and it's got glue in it. So I would take my other tonic scissors and I would cut, watch out for your fingers, cut off kind of the pokey bottom. Now, if you were putting these in a vase or something, you could actually have added like a stem, a wire stem or something in there, and you wouldn't need to cut it off. But since I was putting it on here, and then I would add a little bit of hot glue, and I would just tuck it in like that. And then any spaces that I found that were open, I tucked in the blue leaves. These are the black ones, but I tucked in the blue leaves. Just in a few spaces to fill that in. And I pulled forward some of those from the grapevine wreath. I just kind of pulled those so that they were on the front. I like them. I wanted them to kind of show through. But that's it for how to make a fabric flower out of the leaf dies. Right. There you have it. Here's the finished product. And once I put it all together, I'm really, really happy with it. I know I didn't show you all of the things like sewing the little banner that went across it and all of that. Basically, I just took some fabric, that blue fabric, and I cut it into about 2-inch strips, sewed it up in a little tube, and then tied it across. Because it was a fat quarter, I didn't have enough length to be able to tie it across here. So that's why I had to sew it together. And then I wanted it finished on the back because you could see in there. And so I did go ahead and finish that. The saying I cut out of the same fabric covered paper as the leaves. And then I actually glued it on with Distress Collage Medium because I did want it. I had the paper on the back, and so I didn't want to hot glue it on there. So I went ahead and just glued it on quickly with Collage Medium, and it stuck right away. I didn't have any problem with that. Tied this with just a little black jute that I had. You could color some if you didn't have any in your stash. I did hot glue it in a couple of places on the back, but not on the front. It is loose on the front. And I did add a little bit of distressing with the walnut stain distress ink. And the flowers are also hot glue gunned in place, just like the leaves. So I had the whole thing covered, and then I went ahead and made the flowers, attached those, and I added some additional leaves that I cut out of the same blue, and then went over those around those with walnut stain, and just wanted to kind of fill in there in between those flowers with the blue, just to kind of tie that in a little bit. And I like it. I think this color fabric, and then, you know, the blue kind of pulling this in, the blue grays, I think it all works really well together to kind of look like an old, dilapidated morning wreath. So I'm very happy with how the whole thing turned out. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make flowers out of leaves and how to cover a grapevine wreath. Super simple, and you know, you don't have to worry about, did you get the whole thing covered? And I love how the little grapevine things show through here. I think that's super fun too. They're even in between the flowers here. So that's a lot of fun. I really like that aspect of the grapevine wreath as well. So if you have any questions, as always, you know what to do. Please contact me either through the comments below or through my blog at playswellwithpaper.blogspot.com. I want to thank you so much for following along. I know this tutorial was probably fairly long because I had to show a lot of the aspects of making this. So thank you for your patience and for sticking with me. I really, truly appreciate it. And I want to wish you a very creative day.